Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to my review of tonight's edition of Monday Night Raw. And if you haven't checked out my previous video that I uploaded earlier, which I reviewed Survivor Series from last night, go check out that video, which is my previous video, like I said. If you haven't seen it, check it out. But I thought tonight's Raw, I thought it was a solid show. Wasn't great or perfect though, but I gotta say it was a solid show coming off, after it's the Raw after Survivor Series. I thought it was just solid, in my opinion. But the show opened up with Stephanie McMahon coming out, saying Raw is the A show that decimated SmackDown last night, and she also says that Kurt Angle's job as the general manager is secure. And she then introduces her husband, of course, Triple H. Triple H ends up coming out. Then Kurt Angle ends up coming out, and he gets face to face with Triple H. And he says that if Triple H attacks him again, he could take, his job, Kurt's job as GM, and shove it, because Kurt was like, this is not the general manager of Raw talking. This is the Olympic gold medalist, Kurt Angle, talking. And he also says to Triple H, that after Kurt says he could take his GM job and shove it, Kurt also says that he's coming after Triple H. And then Stephanie goes on and says, not for Kurt to jeopardize his job. And out comes Jason Jordan, and he tells Kurt to put him in a match against Triple H tonight. And he says to Triple H that he is a coward. And Stephanie says that Triple H will tear Jason Jordan apart tonight. And she goes on to say that Triple H is not afraid of him or anybody in the locker room. And then Braun Strowman ends up coming out, gets face to face with Triple H. They have a stare down. They have a stare down for maybe like 5 minutes. Then Triple H then just leaves the ring, and the crowd is calling Triple H, a coward. And Stephanie then goes on to say that it's going to be Jason Jordan versus Braun Strowman for tonight. So. Well, that was the opening segment to tonight's Raw. I thought it was a good opening segment to the show. Really strong opening. Then we got onto the first match. It was Samoa Joe versus Finn Balor. This was a good match. It was entertaining. It was back and forth between Joe and Balor. You had Joe dominate through some parts of the match against Balor, but in the end Joe got the win with the Coquina clutch on Finn to score the win. So overall it was a good match. It was an entertaining match. Really liked it. Then after that we see Kurt Angle and Jason Jordan backstage. And Jason says to Kurt, if he is alright with him having a match with Strowman tonight. Jason says, if he wants to compete against Strowman, he will, and that, he is not afraid of Strowman. Which kind of made me laugh, though, because, Strowman would destroy Jason Jordan. Strowman, of course, is a big guy. So for Jason to say that just made me laugh. And then the next match was Asuka versus Dana Brooke. Pretty much this was basically a jobber match, because of Dana Brooke, just giving Asuka, matches to make her look more stronger, so she could have, better competition. But Asuka got the win. She just ended up, hitting kicks to Dana Brooke to score the win. So it was basically, just a jobber match to make Asuka look more strong. And then after that we had Miz TV. Miz was out there with, of course, his Mr. Raj, Curtis Axel and Bo Dallas. And Miz says, he applauds, he says bravo to Baron Corbin, and that, he goes on to say that he is relevant for his entire career. And he brings out his guest Roman Reigns, and he says, and my guest Roman Reigns, and pretty much he didn't even come out. And so Miz just kept on saying, and my guest Roman Reigns. And then, the music hits, the Shield music hits, and that's when all three of them come down. Roman, Seth, and Dean. And Miz goes on to say that he only invited Roman and not the whole Shield. Dean says to Miz that they proved to the world, they proved that they beat New Day last night, and that they didn't miss a step. And Seth also says that after last night they proved that they are the best in WWE. Miz goes on to say that the Shield should thank him, and he says Roman, he should thank him and Roman, and that Roman says that the Shield shouldn't thank him, and Miz says he bought back the parent of the Shield, and that he goes on to say that he thinks that he should be thanked, and the crowd gives Miz a Miz is awesome chant, which was really weird. I guess because of how he was talking during the segment, or for whatever reason. And Roman says that Miz should thank the crowd of Houston because it was in Houston tonight, same as they were there for Survivor Series weekend with NXT Takeover War Games, Survivor Series last night, Raw tonight, and they're going to still be in Houston tomorrow night for SmackDown. So Roman, like I said, Roman says that Miz should thank the crowd of Houston, and Miz says he's not thanking any of the crowd, and he calls the Shield ungrateful, and that they won last night. Roman says Miz should be ungrateful because he lost to Corbin last night. And it brings up Roman saying, he's not busy and he wants to take on Miz. And so Bo Dallas gets on the mic and says, if Roman wants Miz, he should go through him and Curtis. And then Dean ends up striking Bo, and Miz ends up running away, running out of the ring onto the stage. And then we see Seth then knee strikes Curtis, and Dean ends up hitting Curtis with the Dirty Deeds. And then the Shield then attacks Bo Dallas, and then they triple powerbomb Bo. And then you see like the scared look on Miz's face, when he was on stage, just looking at, the Shield just decimate his Miztourage. So, but it was really funny, the scared look on Miz's face. So, but all it was a decent Miz TV segment with the Shield. Thought all three of them coming down made the segment more better. And then we had a short little interview with Braun Strowman about him heading into his match with Jason Jordan. And Braun says, it's gonna make, with Jason Jordan asking, Braun says it makes Jason look different from all the other superstars, to step up and, say that, that Jason is not afraid of Strowman. So that's what Strowman said, that it makes Jason look different, and, also to Triple H. So it was a little interview with Strowman. Then we had Dean Ambrose versus Sheamus. This was a pretty entertaining match. We had Seth Rollins and Cesaro outside, but it was pretty decent. It was a pretty good match. Really enjoyed it. Ambrose and Sheamus gave it all they got in the match. We had Cesaro later on trying to interfere in the match, but Rollins made the save. And then we saw Dean end up taking out Cesaro, and that led to Seth just pounding on Cesaro, and that led to Ambrose win the match, hitting the Dirty Deeds on Sheamus to score the win. So, but overall, it was a good match. It was entertaining. Then after that, we had Jason Jordan and Matt Hardy backstage, and Jason asks, Matt Hardy for advice, and then, Matt just gives, Jason some tips of, heading into his match with Jason Jordan. Matt saying, oh, I competed against Big Show, and, I competed against, Stroke. I competed against, all these other guys, It was just pretty much basically that. So, but pretty much, it was a little backstage segment with the both of them. Then we had Alexa Bliss come out saying that, she had 5 days to prepare to fight Charlotte, and that, Charlotte only won last night out of luck. And she says that, 2017, this year, has been the year for her, and that there is no one that can hold a candle to her. And then out comes Mickie James saying that, she asked the crowd, who is tired of hearing Alexa, talk, and, and she calls Alexa Biscuit Butt, which was funny. And she says, the only business that she's looking at is, she's has her eye on the Raw Women's Championship. Bayley ends up coming out and says that she agrees with Alexa that, that this year has been her year, and that, she is not, and then Bayley says that she's not the same woman who beat her for the title, and that, the title is hers. Sasha Banks ends up coming out saying, Raw deserves a better women's champion. Out comes Alicia Fox saying that she could have an opportunity at the title. Alexa says that none of them should deserve a title opportunity. She gets out of the ring. Out comes Kurt Angle saying that Alexa will have an opportunity to face the winner of a fatal 4-way match for the one of the women superstars who wins the fatal 4-way will get the challenge and face Alexa for the Raw Women's title, and that match happened, next. So it was, originally supposed to be a fatal 4-way. I mean, the match was going, and then out comes, surprise, it was going to happen sooner or later. Paige ends up returning, was really happy. The crowd was really happy to see her. She got a loud pop. She gets on the mic and says, who's happy? She's back. And, the crowd was just, going crazy. And then she says that she bought some company, and, she makes her way down this, the ramp. And then out of nowhere comes Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville. Mandy Rose, who's one of the participants in Tough Enough, if you might remember her being in that. And she was also used in NXT, but she wasn't really used that much. And Sonya Deville was also from NXT. Really enjoyed her down there in NXT. And surprised that that they brought Sonya up to the main roster. It was Unexpected. It was unexpected. These two were unexpected. Because I did not know. We did not know that they were gonna bring up Mandy and Sonya to the main roster and be with Paige. And really looking forward to what they're gonna call this team of this team with Paige and Mandy and Sonya. So, but really happy to see Paige back. Although we didn't get a number one contender to face Alexa for the Raw Women's Championship. But gotta say, probably they're gonna have Paige be in the match if they ever do it, which probably they will. But really happy to see Paige back. It's been a year since we last seen Paige, so it's pretty cool. And then we see when Raw came back from commercial, we saw Paige, Mandy, and Sonya. They would get an interview by Renee. Alexa comes and she's there, and all three of them, Paige, Mandy, and Sonya, they all end up beating the hell out of Alexa. So it was pretty it was a pretty good beat down though. But like I said, really happy to see Paige back. It's been a while since we've seen her. Then it was Braun Strowman versus Jason Jordan, and it was pretty much just Braun just throwing Jason Jordan around, and from out of nowhere, Kane ends up coming out, and he hits Strowman with the chair. So Jason Jordan saved himself tonight because Strowman would have destroyed Jason Jordan. But Kane came out and he hit Strowman with the chair, and Kane then put the chair around Strowman's throat, and he then threw Strowman into the steps with the chair wrapped around his throat, and pretty much we saw Strowman trying to get help, trying to get medical attention because he was coughing and but yeah, so he sold that pretty well. Strowman, he sold it really good. So, but that was pretty cool. That was pretty cool that to see how well Strowman sold that. And then after that, we had Enzo come out with Tony Nese, Enzo Amore. We saw him come out with Tony Nese, Noam Dar, Drew Gulak, and Ariaya Daivari. Enzo says that he's still the face of 205 Live, and he says all four of them have proved themselves, and they're part of Enzo's the Zoe Train. Such a cheesy name for that. I'm like the Zoe Train. I'm like, what the fuck? Wow. Such a cheesy name for a team. Then out came Akira Tozawa, Cedric Alexander, Rich Swann, and Mustafa Ali. They came out, and Cedric says, they want an opportunity for the Cruiserweight title instead of, the suck-ups that are with Enzo. And Cedric ends up telling Enzo that without, his boys, he's just a catchphrase and a t-shirt. And then all of them start brawling, and Enzo then escapes from the ring. So it was a meh kind of segment with them, and it led to them having a 8-man tag match. Akira Tozawa, Cedric Alexander, Rich Swann, and Mustafa Ali versus Tony Nese, Noam Dar, Drew Gulak, and Ariaya Daivari. This match was pretty much meh to me. Didn't really care for the match. But Tozawa, Cedric, Alexandra, Rich Swann, and Mustafa Ali got the win. So it was meh match. And then after that, we were gonna get an update on how Strowman was doing after, the attack by Kane. Kurt says, Strowman has left the building, which he told Renee Young. And he goes in and checks on Jason Jordan. And Jason says, to Kurt that, he thinks that he let him down. And, Kurt's like, oh, you didn't let me down. Then Miz ends up coming in and says, for Kurt to call off the match against Roman Reigns because it was made official early in the night that Roman Reigns was going to take, it's going to be Roman Reigns versus The Miz for the Intercontinental title. So Miz ends up coming in and tells, Kurt to call off the match against Roman. But Kurt says to Miz, just to go out there, because Kurt is caring for, his son, Jason Jordan. So it was pretty much basically that. Sorry about that, but I was saying, it was pretty much that with Kurt Angle. So, and then after that, we had Shitty Elias out there doing his singing that he always does. And, Matt Hardy ends up coming out and starts beating the hell out of Elias. And he tries to give the twist of fate to Elias, but Elias ends up escaping. So pretty bland segment. Considering they had a match last night on the kickoff show, which didn't get to see. So then it was the main event. Was Roman Reigns versus The Miz for the Intercontinental title, and this was a pretty good main event. It was back and forth between Reigns and The Miz. You had Roman Reigns, hitting a super, trying to hit a Superman punch on Miz. You had Reigns hit a Samoan drop on Miz. And pretty much towards the end of the match, Cesaro and Sheamus end up coming out. They try to distract Roman. And out of nowhere, the Shield end up coming down, and they take out Cesaro and Sheamus. They hit a back body drop on Cesaro, and they, just took out Sheamus. And it eventually led to Roman Reigns winning the match with the spear, and Roman Reigns is your new Intercontinental Champion. And I don't really like how Roman Reigns won the match, defeating The Miz, because Miz lost last night to Baron Corbin. And now tonight he loses his Intercontinental title. But I like, Miz. I like Miz as the Intercontinental Champion. I thought, he had a good run, but maybe he's gonna win it back. Miz is probably gonna win the title back. But who knows what will happen. But I just didn't like the fact that Miz lost it tonight to Roman Reigns. So, but all in all, it was a good match. It was a good main event match. I thought it was entertaining. So, yes, anyways, that's it for my review of tonight's edition of Monday Night Raw. Thank you all for watching. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you all back here tomorrow night for my SmackDown review.